it would sign midnight contracts with Tegeta to obtain coal. It literally, in a couple of hours, a contract will be crafted. Tegeta will be given, as you might recall, 1.6 billion rands guarantee so that it can do all sorts of things. Prepayments of hundreds of millions of rands were given, and teleconferences were held by the board and the management at the time in order to facilitate the Guptas getting the contracts that they actually got. They run 3 mines. And the objective of the whole exercise at that time was to squeeze everybody out and make them the dominant suppliers as far as Eskom power stations are concerned. Now we are told it takes 1 year to contract.
All right, to discuss, we're joined by energy analyst Chris Yelland and also via Skype the author of Blackout, the Eskom Crisis, James Stein. Welcome to you. And let me start with you, Chris, and then we'll come to you, James, in a little while. Do we know at least what happened? And do you get a sense that the officials speaking today know what happened and how to fix it? That's where we have to start.
Yeah, I think there is clarity on what is going wrong. And right now, the problem is we've got plenty of capacity in South Africa, generation capacity, but about a third of it is not available due to breakdowns, due to planned maintenance, due to not operating at full load. And this is causing problems. It means that even though demand is low in summer, the amount of available generation is not enough to meet demand.
So, is there a plan to fix it?
Yes, at an operational level, and today's media briefing was all about the operational problems. They are working hard, they have a plan, they are addressing it, and I think that with time and effort and money, they will start slowly addressing and coming right on these operational problems. Even though the plant is old, it's like a fleet of old cars. But if you really work hard at it, maintain it, fix things that are broken in a systematic way, in a planned way, and you spend the money you need to spend on it, that fleet can be made at least operating a lot better than it is at the moment.
But is the money there?
That's the problem. The problem is certainly there are operational problems, but those can be addressed. The problems that they did not talk about today, they didn't want to talk about today, are the financial problems, the level of debt, the fact that sales volumes are declining, salaries and wages are going up fast, primary energy is going up fast, interest bill is going up fast, amortization and depreciation are going up fast, and the bottom line is going down fast. And those issues were not addressed today. It wasn't the purpose of the media briefing, and it doesn't appear that there is a financial plan yet settled. Of course, there are plans that are being talked about, but they need a lot more engagement with Labour, with business, with government, with Treasury, with Department of Energy, and I think it's going to be some months before we've got a really serious plan on the table.
All right, so you wanted more financial detail. James, were you enlightened today?
My friend Chris is an optimist. I'm erring slightly on the pessimistic side. We've seen this movie before. We've seen it in 2008, we saw it in 2014, and we're seeing it now in its worst state ever. The difference was in 2008, even in 2014, Eskom and the state had more money. So when there was a coal shortage in 2007-8, which led to the first load shedding in January 2007, December, November 2007, January 2008, Eskom could throw a lot of money at the problem. And in fact, if you remember 2009, Eskom made a loss of 9 billion rand because they could buy a lot of coal quickly. What's happened? Today, Eskom's got no money. This company is recording record losses. It made a loss of about 2.5 billion in the previous year. It's moving towards what I've heard is about a 10 billion loss in this coming year. So those are big losses. And now you're sitting with debt, which is increasing massively. Eskom's debt at the moment is about 350 billion rand. They are projecting that debt to go to 600 billion rand over the next 4 years. These numbers are absolutely insane, and they are absolutely true. So where do you even begin to get money to fix the problems that you've got? I don't know if we've got the capacity. or the will to fix it. And let me tell you just something about the will. It was mentioned quite clearly today that something like retrenchments is off the table. How can you come out of the fence, out of the gates, saying something like that? Nothing should be off the table. There should be no holy cows. This country is being held ransom at the moment, and it's at a time when the economy is at its lowest. We can't afford things like this. Nobody wants to see job cuts. But unfortunately, we've come to this.
600 billion, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's more than half our annual budget. So how could South Africa ever afford that, like you say? Does that mean we have to do something, outsource to another country, privatize? How could it possibly happen, James?
Well, you've got an ex-finance minister at DPE now. Hopefully he knows. But he was at DPE a while ago, and they were aware of the problems at Eskom. I simply don't know if they really know, and I'm really concerned. I mean, the only two ways, and we've heard of some of that this past week, Eskom talking about 100 billion rand bailout, essentially. They want to take some of that debt and put it on the government's balance sheet as debt. It's essentially a 100 billion rand bailout. It's massive. And then the other option, of course, is tariffs. So in 2009, Eskom was selling electricity at about 24 cents per kilowatt hour. That excludes the added costs municipalities add. Next year, it's projected to be about 97 cents. So in about, 8 years, the electricity tariff has increased fourfold. And it's just going to be increased exponentially following that. There's no other way to get them out of this hole. And that's why I say when it comes to cost cutting, there should be no holy cows. And when you look at the staff numbers and the average salary people at Eskom are getting, it's a crude measure, I know, but it's accurate once you compare it to previous years. We can't afford to have holy cows, I'm afraid.
So, Chris, I'd like you to respond to the rumour mill. Some people suspicious maybe this is all to get people to either accept higher tariffs or maybe to accept some sort of privatisation.
Look, I've heard all these rumours. I don't buy them. I think the management there means well and is trying hard, and I do not believe that there's a nefarious conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy to damage the system in order to obtain higher prices. I don't buy it. It would be criminal.
James?
I agree. No, I agree with it. I agree with Chris.
Coming back to you, Chris, you've followed Eskom's fortunes under many controversial managers, Brian Molefe, Machela Koko. So you're saying you trust the people who are leading the power utility right now?
I do.
At least that's something we can cling to.
And I do not trust the previous management that led Eskom, and I think we are seeing their legacy. Remember, this new board came in I think it was the beginning of February this year. Their financial year started on the 1st of April, and they've just presented the half-year results. Those half-year results are a reflection of the past. They're a reflection of mismanagement for several years preceding the new board. I'm not saying the new board is perfect, and I don't think they are saying that either. I don't think they're saying they've got all the ideas. In fact, they said today they welcome new ideas from Labour, from staff, from government, from Treasury. But the point is, I think they mean well. They have the best of intentions, and I think we should give them some space to do the job.
James, you sort of analysed the past. Take us back to 2008 and 2014-15. How did we get to a position where load shedding was costing the economy, I think your estimate, 2 billion rand a day? Very briefly, just so we can then fast forward and see how on earth we got here.
Well, the main problem leading up to 2007-8 was that Eskom simply wasn't being allowed to build new power stations. They were warned a couple of times. The national government was warned by Eskom leadership in the decades leading up to 2007-8 that the country's demand for electricity is growing rapidly and we need to build new power stations. But it was, I suppose, considered that there were so many other challenges in the democratic South Africa that new power stations were necessary, and Eskom still had a big reserve margin, I think 25% at one stage. So there wasn't an investment done in that. But what also wasn't done was they didn't allow for independent power producers to construct their own, perhaps private generation, because Eskom has always been this monopoly. So that was the other error that was made. And then, of course, in November, December 2007, there was a lot of rain. Coal stocks at Eskom's power plants ran down, and when that happens, the coal that's left at the bottom is crushed into very fine dust. And when there was a lot of rain in January 2008, that became a big sludge mud mess which can't burn, and that is basically led to the first load shedding we saw. So immediately Eskom went on a big coal buying spree. So by about April 2008 we were out of the load shedding. But then it was realized that we need to now start rolling out a bigger capex project. So a big success at the time was the de-mothballing of old power plants that they brought back online. One or two other things that they did, demand-side management. But to some extent, the slowing economy certainly contributed to the fact that we didn't have a lot of load shedding until about 2014, and then we ran into a bit of trouble again. But following that, we saw units like Ingula coming online, a big hydro plant, which Eskom built, and one or two units at Medupi and Kusile. But at the moment, I'm afraid there's not a lot of light in the tunnel.
All right, so Chris, we're trying to play catch up, and the point is we just can't do it fast enough. He mentioned Medupi and Kusile, and that's a concern that they're not producing enough power yet for Pravin Gordhan.
They're proving to be a nightmare. Cost and time overruns, long delays, and the units that have come on stream are giving trouble. They are giving trouble because they're not performing, they can't keep them online, they can't run them at full output. And today at the media briefing, they raised issues of design problems and execution or construction problems. And they're taking this matter up and investigating it with the original equipment manufacturers. The name Hitachi was mentioned 3 times. But I think we need to look at some of the successes, and we need to work on the successes. The successes we have are the renewable energy program. If we did not have renewable energy today, running on the grid, solar PV during these hot days, wind during the evenings, we would have 2,000 megawatts more load shedding than we had today. Okay, we would be in stage 4 of load shedding. I hear people talking about, renewable energy is costing Eskom 30 billion rand a year. What absolute nonsense. First of all, it cost them nothing to construct those plants. This is outside capital, constructing independent power producers. Second of all, the cost, there's not a cost of 30 billion rand to Eskom. Yes, Eskom are paying the IPP's 30 billion rand, but they recover every cent of that from the consumers via the tariff. It's not costing Eskom a cent to run those renewable energy plants, and without them today, we would have had stage 4 load shedding.
That is good to know, because there's been such a push for these independent power producers to come online. Yeah. All right, let's see what Pravin Gordhan had to say about when this could possibly end. Everybody's asking. Let's take a listen.
We have challenges with the new build. We have put 1.5 billion there on investments just to make sure that we quickly, and we're going to move there and make sure that the results are seen immediately. We have a SWAT team, technical people that are both in Medupi and Kusile, that when the problem happens, they deal with it immediately. That's the first thing. Second thing, we look at the long-term outages. Companies that, outages that have taken 1 year, 6 months, and we said, what can we do? Because they were totally unplanned and they were forced on us. Then we have come to a conclusion that 2 of them can be concluded by January. That will give us back about 650 megawatts.
All right, that wasn't Minister Pravin Gordhan, that was the CEO Phakamani Radebe. And Eskom basically today warning that there could be load shedding until March, but Pravin Gordhan himself was saying that he would like to see the lights on at least over Christmas, cancelling that leave. But is that possible, Chris?
Yeah, I think in the short term, we're going to see some improvements. The reasons for this is that Petro SA has come back online after being down for maintenance and some problems, and they're producing diesel now for Gerikwa Power Station. Number two, there's a unit from Kuburg Power Station, 900 megawatts, which is going to come online again before Christmas. It's been down for some months for refueling. And thirdly, of course, the Christmas period has very low demand. From about the 15th of December to the 15th of January, really demand drops off dramatically as factories shut down. So I think with the effort that's being put in and those extra units coming on stream and demand dropping, we're likely to see, I think, a reduction of load shedding, certainly from stage 2, maybe to stage 1, and hopefully completely over the Christmas period. The question is what's going to happen next year.
Well, James, what do you think? Because Christmas is all good and well. We all want the lights on, but business is crying.
If you're a foreign investor who wants to come and build a factory in this country, would you do so at this moment? I think the answer is quite obvious, and that's the way our problem lies. I think that our problems, we might see some relief in the short term, but I think the financial challenges is going to make it very, very difficult. And I don't see the political will to make the tough choices and to kill the holy cows. I'll mention something else that really concerned me from today's briefing. It was mentioned about a concern about technical skills at the machine floor level, basically working at the power stations. It was mentioned there's 7 acting managers at 7 power stations. I think that we need a skills audit at Eskom. We need to see if the people are able to do the job. If they're not, we need to get the people that can do the job in there. We've heard about sabotage, potential sabotage, so that's another major concern. We saw earlier this year labor action at Eskom where people dumped coal at the gates of power stations. Has anybody been arrested? Has anybody been taken to task? I haven't seen anybody anywhere that's happened. I think that if we don't see the right political will come through to take the tough choices, we are in for a heck of a tough ride moving forward.
The minister wasn't sure. Do you think the claims of sabotage, could that be true?
Well, it depends what your definition of sabotage would be. I suppose I'll just leave it at that. I mean, somebody dumping coal in front of a gate at a time when the system is under massively constrained, I would suggest could amount to sabotage. And some action needs to be taken about that. And I don't know if we've got the will to do so. I mean, we're all aware of the massive numbers of employee growth at Eskom. We're aware of the problems at municipal level, and it was very interesting that Minister Gordhan, who used to be a minister of local government in this country, who should be aware of the challenges at municipal level and the inability of municipalities to pay their Eskom accounts, that he didn't mention anything about that. The fact that Soweto, who owes as much as all the other councils in this country combined, has never been cut like local, rural, poor municipalities are cut. Those are political decisions that are not being made. And I'm afraid this is why we are back in this mess, because people are protected, decisions get made, strange decisions get made, and there's no repercussions. And I'm afraid that I'm concerned. I certainly hope that I will be proven wrong, but at this moment I'm quite concerned.
Chris, your take on the sense that stations are failing left, right and centre and we don't know why?
Yeah, I'd like to just address the question of sabotage. I think the word sabotage is a bit too strong. But we do know that the workforce, and not just the workforce, the management and even the executives, I think they are demoralized, I think they're demotivated, and I think they're disorientated. We've seen, for example, the announcement of the F-band managers are going to be cut, reduced in number, and redeployed, some of them. This affects morale, no doubt, at the highest executive level. There's now been a letter from the management or from the CEO and chairman to the E-band managers. There are about 400 E-band managers. These are the really people that are movers and shakers throughout the organization. And there's been a letter from the EBAN managers to the CEO expressing concern that what they see happening at the F band is likely to happen to them next. And they are very concerned, and they are worried about their jobs, they're worried about their pay, and one can understand this. And today at the media briefing, Labour, NUM, made a statement to say that the workers are also demoralized and disorientated and demotivated. Point is that I think this kind of environment means that they may not be giving of their best, and that's putting it kindly. Yes, I think there is that demoralization. It's due to the unsettlement, the possibility of restructuring, the possibility of unbundling, and this lack of certainty about their own future. It's normal to feel this unsettled feeling, but it does mean that people may not be giving of their best.
All right, I can say that neither of you have given me any hope, although you do say the management in place is at least ethical and trustworthy, so hopefully a solution is found.
And
Thank you very much.
The IPC program
indeed,
is a very important one indeed.
Thank you very much. Chris Yelland, energy analyst and the author of Blackout, the Eskom Crisis, James Stein. Thank you for being with us.